What's going on, everyone? So, the Los Angeles Lakers, more likely than not, are going to try to attempt to create a big three around LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Right? More likely than not, if I had to bet on it, I'd probably take Trae Young coming to Lakers. I have my questions about that. Right? I worry about the fit alongside LeBron and Trae. If we didn't have LeBron, go get Trae. I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. His age, his youth, his playmaking ability, him and Anthony Davis in that pick and roll would just be absolute butter. Right? But it's just like Trae's very ball dominant, LeBron's very ball dominant. Like, can they figure it out enough to make it work? If it does work, again, good luck. Right? Like, if you replace, even take off D'Lo and Reeves, and you replace him with, I mean, you could take off Rui too, because Rui didn't do much. Take off those three and put in Trae Young. Telling me the Lakers don't win this series, or at least make it a better series than it was? I think so. Right? Even if you don't win, it probably at least going 6-7 games. Right? Like, you probably win game 2. So I kind of like that idea. But what I want to talk about in this video is kind of some things that I see common consensus from many, not everybody, but a good number of people in the comments and stuff like that about just like big threes and like, oh, you lose depth and, you know, we tried this experiment, all that stuff. Not all big threes are created equal. Okay. I see so many people comparing Russell Westbrook and LeBron and AD, that big three, to any other potential big three that we could make, whether it's Donovan Mitchell, Trae Young, whomever. That is like comparing fish to rocket ships. It's not even in the same space, right? Russell Westbrook made no sense to begin with. We also didn't have the collective salaries to really match it to with it without destroying what we had. On top of that, it never was going to work, right? Like, look at the big threes that have happened over history that have had success. They all play different positions, right? You know, you think Dwayne Wade, shooting guard, LeBron James, small forward, or you can even go power forward. You know, Chris Bosh, play power forward or center, right? And those are their positions, right? They're not two guards or two heavily ball handled guys or whatever. Look at Boston, right? You have Ray Allen, shooting guard, Paul Pierce, small forward, Kevin Garnett, power forward. Boom, it meshed, it worked. You just have to make those adjustments because you're playing with 3 stars. But you look at something like Phoenix. As soon as Phoenix traded for Bradley Beal, those that were around, many of you might remember, what did I say? I was like, that's never going to work. That's going to be a disaster. I was like, that's the biggest mistake. They might have won a championship had they keep Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. They're not doing nothing now. Why? Because you created a big three that made no sense. Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are the same player that play the same position. And neither of them are big enough to switch over to like the 3. I mean, you can, but then you're undersized. And then you lack defense. And then you lack so many other things. And neither of them are real true playmakers. Can they make a play? Talk about it all the time. I've talked about it all year this year. Talked about it with Austin Reeves a lot. It's the difference between a guy that can make plays and an actual playmaker. A guy that sees things and creates things and causes things to develop, rather than a guy that can run the basics, you know, pick and roll or find the open man or hit the occasional cutter. There's a big difference between a guy that can actually develop and create something as things are unfolding and see the court, and there's a difference, right? You add those two together, and then you add in Kevin Durant, and it's like, it doesn't make any sense. You still need the components necessary. Positions are still important. Like, we live in a very positionless NBA. And yet every team still has a point guard. Every team still has a big man. Right? It's just some of the outer positions, like, you know, the forward spot is kind of interchangeable in today's NBA because most guys, you know, 6'7", 6'8", right? You go that. Even the 2 guard and the 3 guard is very similar in today's NBA, right? Like, more the forward positions. Ideally, you know, you have a couple 6'6" to 6'8" guys, so you kind of just switch everything, right? But you still have, all the top teams still have a legit center. They still have a guy that's 7 feet. They still have a guy that handles the ball and can make plays and run the offense and initiate and get guys going, right? Like, you still need those things in order to properly have a team. So if the Lakers are to get another star, Donovan Mitchell would be just, in my opinion, out of the park, right? Because again, you get a guy who he can initiate the offense, he can make the occasional. He's not an excellent playmaker, but he can make the plays, right? If he plays like he did this year, I mean, you're talking about he was all NBA defense type guy or all defensive team type player. So you'd get that point of day, you get that defense, but you get that just legitimate, go get you a bucket, not afraid of the moment type guy. But he plays the guard position. And then you add in LeBron, who plays the power forward position. But he also has a ton of skill sets that Donovan doesn't. His ability to make plays, his ability to get to the basket and just kind of overpower guys, right? Like, so, and then you got Anthony Davis, who is a big man who could play the center position and defend and hit shots and play inside out and do all the things necessary, make plays out of the post, all of that. You have the different positions rather than Russell Westbrook, who LeBron's basically your point guard, and Russell Westbrook needs the ball in his hands, and you got two guys that have to have the ball in their hands at all times to be great, right? Donovan Mitchell, yes, he's a guy that needs the ball in his hands without a doubt, but he's also a guy that complements his skill sets. He can shoot the basketball, he can create and basically be a legit 3-level scorer. When LeBron goes to the bench, it's DM time, right? Like, there's differences between having a big three that actually fits and makes sense than a big three that's just kind of compiled together, and it puts you in a situation where you don't have depth in the Russell Westbrook case, and the pieces don't fit. If the pieces fit, you'd be fine. I mean, look at most of the top teams in the league right now. They're not deep. They're not 8, 9, 10 guys deep. Even the teams that are running 8, 9 guys, they're running it because they have to, right? It's not because they're like, oh man, this guy, our 8th guy, man, he should be starting, right? Like, no. Look at Boston. Outside of their starting 5, they're incredibly thin. Yeah, on occasion, get Pritchard go off and have a good game, or Al Horford go off and have a good game. Yes, but consistently, they're not looked at as this incredibly deep team. Denver is another team. I mean, last year, what were the 2 biggest questions and biggest reasons why many didn't think Denver would win a championship? 1, the lack of defense. They weren't a great defensive team. But 2, they didn't have the depth that people thought. Oh, you can't, right? Now, obviously, there's a concern of injuries, but that's the concern, period, right? Even right now, even if you go with the depth route, if LeBron or Anthony Davis get hurt, guess what? Season's over regardless, right? But at least if one of them get hurt and you have a Donovan Mitchell, let's say LeBron ends up, knock on wood, right? Let's say LeBron ends up getting hurt. Well, now you have Donovan Mitchell and Anthony Davis to hopefully carry the workload. Well, right now you got a bunch of role players that may or may not show up. And LeBron, there's a reason role players are role players, right? There's a reason for that. Otherwise, they'd be getting bank and they'd be stars and they'd be running their own team, right? Like, there's differences. And then from the depth perspective, Lakers are in a very different situation than the Russell Westbrook, right? You have better, beefier contracts that can line up to make things easier. Like Donovan Mitchell, he would be ideal because you could trade for Donovan Mitchell and still have salaries to go get other pieces if you needed to, right? Because he's only making I think $35 million, something like that off the top of my head. Trae Young would make things a little more difficult, without a doubt, right? Because Trae's making $44 million or something like that, $45 million this upcoming season. So that's tough because you got to give up 3 guys to get there. But let's use Trae because, again, I think he's the most likely scenario. So let's say the Lakers trade Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and Gabe Vincent, right? Let's call it that. Or let's say they work out maybe even a 3-team to go get D'Lo or something. No, let's just keep Gabe Vincent, right? Okay, let's keep it simple, right? Those 3 guys, right? So Gabe Vincent, Rui, Reeves, Jalen Hood-Schifino, whatever, right? And then of course you're going to throw in the 3 first, all that, right? You would still have, for the moment, right? We're not even in free agency yet. We're not even in other little trades that we might be able to get done because the Lakers have, let's say they give 3 firsts and a pick swap for Trae. They'd still have, I believe, another pick swap, and then they at least have 5 seconds that maybe you could package to go get a guy or 2, right? So, but let's just say, right, you trade those 3 guys. You'd still have Trae Young, still have Max Christie, still have Jared Vanderbilt, right? LeBron and AD. Okay. That could literally be your starting five if you wanted to, right? And then you'd still have the potential of Taurean Prince, Christian Wood, Jackson Hayes, right? And that's not counting, Cam Reddish. Sorry, I don't know why I blanked on that. Right, Cam Reddish. Right, and you still could go and sign free agents. Right, you still have vet minimums. Go take a flyer on like a Kevin Porter Jr. Right, you'd have taxpayer mid level. Can you go get maybe a Valanciunas? Right, and then like I said, you have a bunch of seconds. Maybe you could work something out to go get a legit 3-and-D guy. Right, can 4 seconds? Can 4 or all? Give all 5 at that point. Can you take all 5 seconds and go get an Alex Caruso, right? And have Trae Young, Alex Caruso. You could go LeBron, Valanciunas, and Anthony Davis. Again, the depth wouldn't be the problem. And then you still have Taurean Prince on the bench. You still have all the other guys that I listed. Lakers, the depth won't be a problem because it's not going to be like the Russell Westbrook situation where they had to trade 5 guys, and that was basically their entire roster, right? No, you still have other guys that you can have step up. You got guys that were good for you this year that can step right in, especially if you trade Rui. Christian Wood can step in and play that kind of Rui role and be your backup 4, and even on occasion play the 5 spot, right? Another coach might actually utilize him properly and make him better. Take a flyer on a guy, like I said, like a Kevin Porter Jr., guy go give you 20 off the bench. Right? You still have, like I said, Jared Vanderbilt off the bench. You'd be fine. You'd be 8, 9, 10 guys deep, but you'd have 3 stars. You'd have complementary players. I'm not worried about rounding out the roster because the Lakers are just, again, in a very different position. What I am worried about is that if you do get a Trae Young, can him and LeBron work out? Right? That's why I'd love a guy like a Donovan Mitchell because I don't have those questions of will it mesh? Obviously, there might be a little bit of a learning curve, but for the most part, I think eventually it'll just be even fit. Where Trae might be a little, but if it works, then good luck, right? Good luck beating the Lakers because now the Lakers would have the firepower and have that consistency from 3 guys. There's a reason stars carry this league, right? And again, I'm not saying the Lakers get Trae Young and lock it in. Lakers champions. Here we go. Right? I think it raises the ceiling. But you also, another big thing that I don't think a lot of people are keeping in mind, and this is, in my opinion, probably the biggest factor. So for those that stayed towards the end of the video, congratulations. And thank you. I appreciate that. But the Lakers are looking post LeBron. LeBron only has another year or two. Right? Even if he signs that 3-year extension, that last year's probably +1, so you probably only have him for 2 years. You need to start getting a guy that can be post LeBron. So what Trae, again, just going with Trae, what Trae does is it raises your ceiling for now, but also when LeBron leaves, you still have those 2 stars, and now you can get even more or even upgraded complementary pieces to where you can now put yourself in a position to go win a championship. So, again, not all 3 stars are created equal. I just see so many people that are like, we already went over this. Remember what happened? That was a completely different situation. Seriously, that was a different movie. Right? You're comparing a horror movie to a love story. It's not the same thing. It's not the same genre. Right? This can work if it's done properly and the pieces make sense and fit. That's the big key. So forget the Russell Westbrook thing. Trae Young is not Russell Westbrook, right? Now, there are some conflicting issues, which, again, when we get closer to the Trae Young rumors and stuff like that, I'll dive into more and we'll kind of break it down more analytically. But stay tuned for that. So anyway, again, biggest thing is Lakers are also looking for post LeBron, right? And for if that, hey, LeBron might miss 20 games this year. We need somebody that can, kind of pick up the slack when he's gone. Right? LeBron, if you get a Trae Young, LeBron can kind of do what he wants to do and just kind of coast and just kind of be out there. And when Trae goes to the bench, it's all right, let me go get a quick 10. Okay. oh, end of the game, okay, let me go get another quick 10. All right, I got my 20. We're good, right? And he can kind of use it as an excuse for not dropping 30, for averaging 28, right? Like, he can just be, oh, we got 3 guys, right? Like, so just things to keep in mind. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Somewhere kind of in between. Again, how do you feel? What your thoughts are? I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.